Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for the next part of my playthrough of this hypothetical Spanish-American war scenario from Dreadnoughts Fortresses of Steel. So when I left the game previously at the end of the last video, the situation is that the two squadrons, US and Spanish, are still heavily engaged with each other. They're steaming on parallel courses at long range. Neither side has a particular tactical advantage over the other in terms of their maneuvering. And the sea state is still 2, which is pretty clear, as you'd expect from the Caribbean. The only thing is, the United States has been getting by much the better of the gunnery engagement. So over here on the left, you can see the two flagships. The Indiana has been making very, very good shooting over the last few turns. And the poor Almirante Oquendo has been heavily hit. The conning tower has been destroyed. And unfortunately, the life of the admiral has been claimed. She's also suffered damage to her funnels, which has reduced her speed. And this has put the Spaniards in a bit of a parlous position because, of course, losing their admiral, they lose the ability to play formation cards. And even more critically, they lose the ability to maneuver in a way that will put the US squadron at a disadvantage. All they can really do is alter the range and try to stymie efforts by the US to either alter the range in their favor or outmaneuver them. So their options are severely limited. Now, really, on paper, the Spanish squadron ought to just run. But of course, it's 1898 and there's national honor at stake. The US ships have been battering, well, they've been battering the Spanish squadron, but one ship in particular. And their successes are an insult to Spanish honor and the Spanish flag. So while the Spanish are sensible enough to realize that they are outmatched in this one, there has to be a bit of a reckoning before they disengage. So as the Spanish player, because I'm very much playing this from the Spanish perspective, just to give it a bit of color and context, I don't feel after what's happened that I can simply cut and run and leave the US in possession of the field. I need to convincingly hurt one of their ships so that when we do withdraw, the honors are even. For the US, of course, their sole objective is to destroy me anyway. So my decision is, I expect, playing into their hands, but it's going to make for an interesting scenario. So when I left things, it was the US player's turn. They've got some decent ranging fire cards. But unfortunately, their two most powerful salvo fire cards can't be played at the moment, and they've only got a bit of a weak one that is playable with the ranging fire cards they have. So maybe they shouldn't indulge in that, because they do have a lot of well, they've got two maneuvering cards. Given the weight of the firepower they can bring to bear, they don't actually need to show much tactical finesse for this. All they need to do is close with me and destroy me. So given that their available long-range firing cards are a bit weak, they're going to attempt to do just that. So they play a maneuver card for their entire squadron. And me as the Spanish player looking nervously at my hand. I don't actually want this to happen. At the moment, I want to keep the range long because I'm hoping, despite the fact that fortune has favoured the US quite heavily so far, I'm hoping that I can score some hits with my heavy guns before we start playing with the terrors and dangers of a close range engagement. So I am going to attempt to counter the US maneuver, and I have to draw a 3 or better on the random number. I fail, unfortunately, because I got a 1. So the US managed to bring the range down to medium. That's bad news for me, because if you remember the previous video, I explained that the firing of secondary guns does not count as an action. Ships can just do it if they're in range. So the US have brought themselves neatly within range. and those secondaries are going to begin banging away at me at the moment. In a moment. But first, before that happens, the US just needs to check to see whether they lose their formation card, and they definitely do. In the slight confusion of closing the range, their formation has come apart. That's actually quite helpful for me. Now, I've probably made that sound a bit melodramatic. It's not that their formation has disintegrated, but it's lost its cohesion slightly, as is probably inevitable in things like this. So if they want to get their 2+2 card draw advantage back and be able to pull off complex maneuvers, they will have to replace that card. And luckily for the Spanish, they don't have another formation card in hand at the moment. That's nice. The downside is, though, there's nothing stopping them from firing their secondaries. Before they do, I'm just going to confirm that the Spanish have no evasive action cards in hand. So starting with the Indiana, the US tactic is simple. They are simply going to concentrate ship for ship because they know that they're not going to bother ganging up on any of us because each of their ships is individually superior to each of mine. So they may as well just pick a dance partner and have at me. So the Indiana is going to fire her 8-inch and 6-inch secondary batteries at me. And this is where secondary gunfire is different. If I just bring in a ship card for you to see, unlike the slightly more involved procedure for hitting things with your main battery, with your secondaries, it's simply a matter of drawing equal or greater than that value on a random number draw in order to score hits. The only modifiers you apply are things like movement, maneuver advantage, the target number. Range doesn't matter to secondary guns because they have to be so much closer anyway in order to hit. Your crew quality affects it too, target speed, and the prevailing weather. Now, looking at the modifiers list, none of those apply in these circumstances. There are no modifiers, so it's going to be a straight draw for the Indiana. And she gets a 7. Ouch. Okay. I'll borrow the Iowa's card again. It's just because Indiana's card has stuff on it. So having secured a hit, the next thing is to look at the battle range, which is medium. That is the penetration rating for the secondary guns at close range and medium range. So the Indiana having hit me, they next determine the hit location. And it's a flotation hit. Their basic penetration strength is 2, and drawing a random number for the modifier, an even number is +2, so that's a total of 4. Bad news for the Spanish, because looking at the Almirante Oquendo, her armor rating is 4, so they've equaled it, which means the poor ship now gets a flotation hit, which reduces her speed to 3. This is very, very bad news. I think sticking around was probably a mistake, but irrespective of what my decision was, the US would have got this firing round anyway. So hard luck for the Spanish, it seems. So, okay, that was painful. Those US secondaries are punching massive holes. And it's broadly correct because as a historical aside, analysis of the Battle of Santiago Bay in July 1898 showed that the majority of the damage to the Spanish ships was actually inflicted by the 8-inch guns of the US battleships. So they're pitching in and having their fun with me, unfortunately. And as you saw, just as a reminder, because secondary gunfire doesn't count as an action, you don't have to play a card to fire your secondaries. They just fire away whenever they can see a target. Unless, of course, you order them not to. Why you would do that, I don't know. It would be nice, but I don't think they're going to show me that consideration. So, encouraged by the visible hits that the Indiana is scoring on the Oquendo, slowing her down and in so doing forcing the rest of the squadron to slow down with her, because of course your formation has to maintain the speed of the slowest ship. The Iowa's now going to start hammering the Cristobal Colon. Same absence of modifiers, although mercifully for the second Spanish ship, she misses with a 0. The Oregon then fires on the Infanta Maria Teresa and hits. Ouch. So she hits the Infanta. It's a flotation hit again. No. And her modifier is only +1 for 3. Okay, the Infanta was lucky. She suffered a similar hit to the Oquendo, but for whatever reason, the shots didn't penetrate in a convincing manner, so she's okay. And lastly, USS Texas, because of her older gun mountings, needs a 5 or greater, and she misses. So thank goodness. And now the US can draw their cards. 5, 6, 7, 8. So they get 2 cards because their hand size is 10. Not sure I'm enjoying this very much. So over to the Spanish. Well, I was tempted to increase the range, but I think I might have to try sorting out my speed first. So what I'm going to do is play Damage Party on the Oquendo to remove that hull hit. And that permits us to restore our speed back up to 5. Because I can't do anything about the funnel damage. But hey, it's at least we're not suffering from a speed disadvantage. Or at least not. Yeah, we're traveling at the same speed as the US squadron. And of course, the secondary guns rules cuts both ways. So although there's not much else I can do with my other ships. Oh, actually, yes, there is, because I have an action stations card. So what I'm going to do is, having carried out the repairs, the Oquendo is going to play action stations. And then the squadron is going to try to maneuver to pull back to long range, because I really didn't enjoy that. The US decides they want none of this, so they're going to attempt to counter. And they fail. So we manage to pull the range back to long. Now, this does mean my secondaries don't get to fire, but I think given what just happened, that's a decent price to pay. I've also just realized I gave the US player 10 cards in their card draw when I should not have done, because they'd lost their formation cards. I'll let their hand stand for now. I'll just put it down to Fortunes of War, but I need to remember that for the next time. But anyway, my relatively pitiful hand size is 7 cards, so I'm just going to draw that. How annoying. All these formation cards, where you're an engineer, that I can't play. No, I don't want formation cards. I'm not eligible to have them anymore. I want more of these. Thank you very much. So meanwhile, the US ships are a bit unhappy because they feel they've been cheated of their victim. So they've only got ranging fire and some salvo fire cards, so they're going to pick out the best ones and see whether they can... It's a shame, from their perspective, they can't fire their best ones, but they can take pot shots, which is better than nothing. So given her lucky streak so far, the Indiana is going to try firing that one at the Almirante Oquendo. The Iowa is going to follow her fine example by similarly targeting the Cristobal Colon. And the last of the modern US battleships, the Oregon, is going to target the Infanta Maria Teresa. So they're spreading the love round equally. That's nice. Again, I am stuck with no evasive action cards, so all I can do is hope for the best. Now we're back to long range fire, so I can take into account modifications for battle range and for limitations of gun mountings. So base fire strength of 2, down to 1 because of the main gun mounting limitations. Battle range is +1, so that brings it back. All the other variables pan out, so the US attack strength remains 2 +5. Ouch, they've hit me again. So they hit the Almirante Oquendo. Ooh, that's a double flotation hit. That's not nice. It means they get 2 hits again, 2 possible penetrating hits against my flotation. So the strength of the attack at this range is 5. Oof. For the first hit, 5 plus. That definitely goes in at 7. And the next one is 5 plus. Ooh, okay. It just got really bad. 2 penetrating hits to my flotation means that the Almirante Oquendo, as I should correctly call her, has just been sunk. Oh dear. I think this is rapidly, yes, I know, glub, 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 glub. This is rapidly turning into a question of Spanish survival over Spanish honor now. And the pain is potentially not ending there because the Iowa's shots are coming in next. Thankfully, that's a miss. They needed a 6 altogether. 3 plus 1 only gives them 4. So lots of water spouts around the Cristobal Colon, but it's fine. Also, in a way, by sinking the Oquendo, the US has inadvertently done me a favor, because the rest of the squadron can crank their speed up to 6 again. So we'll very slowly draw ahead of them if we survive this. Because the Oregon, of course, is ranging in on the Infanta Maria Teresa. And that is a miss. It's a close miss, but it's still a miss. So that ends the absolute horror of that turn for the Spanish. And I won't forget this time, the US only has a hand of 8 cards. Ah, I see they've got their formation card back. This is not good at all. Okay, my sense of bravado is very rapidly leaving me now. I think having subsequently lost a ship after losing the admiral, I don't think anyone would blame us for fleeing at this point. So I'm going to do my best to get beyond extreme range of the US ships, because I think we are onto a bit of a loser now. So I'm going to play a maneuver card to try and increase my squadron's range. The US has no interest in seeing me get away with it, so they're going to try and stop me. And they do not succeed, luckily. So the range is now extreme. Unless you're the Indiana, the chances of us hitting each other at this range are really low now, but I'll only feel good once I've been able to get further than extreme and basically leg it. Unfortunately, I only have a hand size of 6 cards now, and because I took an action by maneuvering, I can't discard any of these. So I just have to sit tight with this hand of cards and hope that they don't do anything horrible to me next turn. Now, of course, I'm sure that's what they have in mind. The US has no maneuvering cards now, so their choice of actions is actually really easy. They can sense we're getting away, so rather than restoring their formation card, the crack shot that is the Indiana is now going to shift her fire to the Cristobal Colon, and she's going to fire a particularly powerful salvo at me. And as you saw, I have no evasive action card, so we will have to see what happens. So it's a fire strength of 4, -1 for the turret mounting, no bonus for battle range because they're firing at extreme range now. So the final number is 3 plus 3. Oh no, exactly what they needed. That ship is incredible. Their gunners really are something else. So they hit the Cristobal Colon in the main turret. Okay, could have been worse. And their attack strength at extreme range is 4 plus 2 for 6. They land a hit on our main battery, which is fine. The Cristobal Colon's guns weren't even installed, so I don't regard that as a huge loss. Now, of course, because this is one of the main weapon systems that they've hit, it doesn't instantly go to one of these. Instead, it takes a damage marker, which means that assuming I had guns installed there, if they had fired, it would have been a -2 to the random number draw. But we're laughing in a way, because yes, they've damaged the system, but you've damaged empty barbettes, so we don't care. You can tell I'm just grasping at bravado straws now, can't you? So yes, that being that, the US will leave us alone for now. And ooh, that's some nasty cards they're getting. So over to the Spanish. What can we do now? Do we have a maneuvering card? No, we do not. And I can't use any of these firing cards. So I am going to ditch all my formation cards because I can't play these. They're just taking up room in my hand. I will hang on to these in the vain hope that I can do something with them and draw 3 cards. Oh, maybe not such a vain hope after all. Ooh, okay, maybe not. We might actually start fighting back next turn. Well, fighting back convincingly, perhaps. The US does have some powerful firing cards, but they don't have quite what they need in terms of the ranging fire cards, and they still lack maneuvering cards. They could play the formation one, but there's every chance as far as they're concerned that we might get away. So as long as they're able to carry on doing it, the Indiana particularly, because she's a bit of an ace, is going to carry on hammering at the Colon. I have no evasive action cards, so the final tally of that is 2 plus, and they hit us again. Do you know what? I'm no longer surprised by this. It's one of those things that's just going to keep happening. Oh no, US luck has changed, and so has Spanish. The shell hits, and we're bracing for that nasty 13-inch projectile to do horrible things to the ship. And it doesn't. It just sits there, hissing and basically just being malevolent. Fine with me. So, muttering darkly, the US gets 2 cards back. And it's back to us now. We've got that, which I can pair with that rather powerful firing card. I think the Infanta Maria Teresa, simply because it's the... Actually, no, let's try and go for a weak one. The Infanta Maria Teresa is going to fire at the Texas. She's the weak link in the US chain. She's the older and not so well-designed battleship. So Infanta Maria is going to target her. And the Vizcaya is also going to shoot at the Texas. We're going to concentrate fire on that one. Because the range is extreme, they can target any ship in the enemy battle line. As the range gets closer, you can only target opposite and adjacent ships. But at 7,000 yards, they can toss shells at whoever they want to. So we're going to go for this. Unluckily for us, the Texas does have a straddle reduction card. And because the Infanta Maria Teresa would have attacked first, they're going to play that on my attack. So going through all the modifiers, it's a -2 for the Spanish mounting type, another -2 for the US evasion. So at the end of the day, we get we've got a base number of 0. Oh no, and we suffer a gun breakdown. That's... oh. What on earth is wrong with our freaking ships today? I sound like someone. I wonder who. Anyway, we have suffered a breakdown, which is really bad news. So nothing goes off, and the Infanta Maria Theresa's turrets are misbehaving. What about the Vizcaya? Are you going to do any better? Modifiers again give us a final attack value of 0. +4, it was a good try, but it's a miss. I had high hopes for that broadside, but it didn't really get me anything. Ooh, but I may get chances to try again. Oops, last card. Oh good, that will prove useful. So back to the United States. Much to their frustration, they still can't close with us, but they can certainly fire at us. And, I mean, really, just because they've got little else better to do, the Indiana wants to continue on with her lucky streak and is continuing to pour accurate fire at the Cristobal Colon. Now is definitely the time to use that evasive action card. So the US attack is reduced to... it's -1 for my evasive card, another -1 for the for the mounting type, and that's it. So they have a final attack value of 3. Ouch! And they hit us again, of course. So they hit the colon. Right in the flotations. Attack strength at extreme range, or penetration rating at extreme range, is 4 + 1 for 5, and they have made a hole. So water starts pouring into the Cristobal Colon. And even more horrifically, the speed of the Spanish squadron is now reduced again. I really hope I have some ships left to get out of this, because it's starting to look like that may not happen. The Indiana's gunners, of course, are really pleased with what they've achieved. No surprises there. And just in case I try anything, it looks like they're well covered for next turn. Oh, forgot to draw them one more card. So, back to the Spaniards. I can hurl a very little bit of blazing defiance at them. The Infanta Maria Theresa is going to play the engineer card to automatically fix her defective gun mountings. That was nice and easy. And with the very weak firing cards I've got to hand, the Vizcaya is going to attempt to hit the Texas. Knowing what the fortunes of war are like in this game, the US is having none of it, and she's getting an evasive action thrown on top of that. And that's really brutal as modifiers go, because the Spanish are left with a -3. In these circumstances, if you're presented with an impossible shot, the rules say don't even bother drawing a card, because there's no way the Spanish will land a hit with those modifiers. So those cards just go away. Let's see what I get. Oh, a maneuvering card. I wonder if this might be our ticket out of here. Especially as I've got 2 now. Okay, I'll go with that. That suits me just fine. Especially as the US ships are still blissfully using me as target practice. Yes, the US force is finally out of playable firing cards. I can breathe a sigh of relief there. But they are going to restore their formation card. Better late than never. Because now that they draw cards again, they get 4 because they're back up to 10. I see they have some added insurance with even more formation cards. Oh dear. Right, the Spanish, unsurprisingly, are going to get out of there. So I'm going to play a maneuver card to extend the range beyond extreme. And finally, a bit of luck. The US has no cards that will enable them to counter that. So I'm going to rule that despite the state of the Spanish squadron, its very poor physical state, they've managed to get beyond extreme gunnery range. And also, this battle has been going on for something of a while. So conditions are probably, certainly light conditions are probably beginning to go. There's also the ability of the US to pursue in terms of coal stockpile. There could be any number of things, but for whatever reason, the Spanish have managed to open the range beyond extreme. And I'm going to say the surviving ships have managed to make a clean getaway. Was that an inglorious finish after all my chat about Spanish honor and fighting on? Well, yes, but I think once the Almirante Oquendo was sunk, I had a legitimate reason to ditch all that highfalutin talk of to the last man, because it would have been a very irresponsible waste of the squadron. In terms of what Spain had in 1898, these ships here, the four armoured cruisers, represented a priceless strategic asset. And having had their strength quartered, you could say arguably even more than that with the damage to the Cristobal Colon, to throw them away in a frenzy of false and ultimately futile, perhaps heroics, would have been pointless. So I don't feel too bad about changing my mind and running away. The alternate school of thought is maybe I should have carried on closing. I might well have landed some damaging hits with my secondaries. That's very true. The Spanish cruisers are very well endowed with powerful secondary batteries. But you could see what the US guns were doing to me. And in this sort of competition, where the US ships are much tougher, if it makes for an interesting comparison, most of the Spanish ships have a rating of 4 for the protection of their flotation ratings. The modern US battleships have 8. I would have had real trouble damaging these ships fatally. The best I could hope for would perhaps be inflicting a certain level of humiliation damage, like knocking off a funnel here and there, maybe wrecking a secondary battery or two, something like that. But I suspect that in a close range slugging match like that, without the ability to maneuver to reduce their level of return fire, there's only one way that contest would have ended. So no shame to the squadron for turning tail and running. And that in the space of just about one deck. These games normally last 3 decks, depending on the side, but we'd almost got to the end of the first draw deck. The engagement is pretty much decided, and the Spanish have decided that discretion's the better part of valor. So there we go. That is a complete game using the current or version 4.1 rules of Dreadnoughts Fortresses of Steel. I hope that you found this interesting. And as always, really, really rooting for the designers, Rolf Grein and Nick Salmon, who've put so much work into producing this excellent, excellent game. As I said before, my fingers are massively crossed for you guys. Really, really hope that you get somewhere in taking this forward. And to the rest of you, if you like what you've seen, tell your friends, point them to this video. Get people talking about this amazing game, because word of mouth is a great way to spread this sort of thing and get it noticed. But I will wrap up there because this is turning into another long video. As I say, I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you found it interesting. I certainly hope you've had as much fun as I've had playing it through, even though I got my rear end handed to me by the opposition again. As always, to my very stalwart and very patient veterans, a huge thank you for staying with me on this channel and for following this series in particular. It's always great to see you guys. Really love to have your company. And thank you for all the comments. I will get to replying to those as soon as I can, both the ones on the previous video and any you want to leave for this one. They're always welcomed. I do appreciate them. And as I say, I'll get back as soon as I can. To anyone who might be visiting my channel for the first time, a very warm welcome to you. I hope that you like the look of this incredibly good game. And again, tell people what you've seen here. And if it's naval wargaming that's brought you here, I hope you find other stuff on the channel that will interest you. And if it's wargaming in general, then definitely have a wander around. I hope there's other videos that you like. But you're more than welcome, and I hope I'll see you again. In the meantime, thanks to all of you, whoever you are, wherever you're tuning in from. It's been great having you for this one, and I really look forward to seeing you again on my next video. Take care, and thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.